Welcome back. In this segment of our program is brought to you by Medic Regional Blood Center. It's a new year, and I'm going to ask you to make one resolution with me. Go to a blood drive this year by Medic, or just go down to their Ayler Avenue offices. Give blood there this year. I did last year, and I left the place feeling like I had done something important. And when I got an email back telling me how quickly that blood was used and how it was used and who got that blood, it makes you feel like you've done something for the community. All of us can do that. That doesn't say anything about me. It says something about all of us. We can all do that. And I ask you to. You're going to get a good feeling from doing it. Give blood. Check out medicblood.org for more information. Okay, got some quickie bowl questions for you before I get into my Garantano observation. I'm going to start with Josh and Bob. You guys weren't here last week when we had a real quick segment on expanding the playoffs or not. Ralph Russo, let's put up a quote here. Ralph Russo of the Associated Press was calling for an 8-team playoff this week, and this is the way, not because it necessarily helps you find the right champion, but because it's fun. He says, think of it this way. The NCAA basketball tournament with its imbalanced bracket, no reseeding of teams, and one-and-done format is a terrible way to determine the best team in college basketball. But it's a fabulously entertaining event to determine a champion. Mm-hmm. The view being that's why you need to go to an 8-team playoff. Josh and Bob, agree or disagree? Should you go to an 8-team playoff simply because it's more entertaining that way?
I wouldn't right now, but I eventually would, and I've always advocated, not abdicated.
Yeah, you never advocated.
I never abdicate. I've advocated for going to 8. I've even thought 16, but right now it's pointless. Until Alabama and Clemson back up to the pack, it's pointless. I think there's been years where 8 would be competitive. It's not competitive now. I would just let everything kind of cycle through and Nick Saban retire.
Yeah, I think I would actually go ahead and do it now for the entertainment purpose. With Nick Saban there, maybe you can get some more entertaining earlier round games until those teams advance and get their whooping from Nick Saban. So I think I think you could use it to your benefit now. But I agree. I don't think it's the best way to determine a champion, but it could add entertainment, which adds dollars, which I know the NCAA cares about.
All right, very good. Chuck Cavaleris and Mike Strange, let me show you a map. I don't often use maps. You got little thumbtacks. That's where the SEC's bowl tie-ins are. There are 11 of them. Memphis, Nashville, Shreveport, Houston, New Orleans, Tampa, Orlando, Jacksonville, Birmingham, Atlanta, and Charlotte, which it's not in the footprint, but it really is. All their bowls are in the footprint for the most part. Even the SEC network's based in Charlotte. My question is, should the SEC either A, stay with this so fans can drive to the same places every year, or should they B, throw in at least one game outside the footprint? New York in the Pinstripe Bowl, San Antonio, Alamo Bowl. Chuck looking down there. Las Vegas, San Diego. Should the SEC expand outside its footprint to give its fans a chance to travel somewhere exotic, if you will, even though it may cost them more? Thoughts?
Go ahead.
Well, there's pros and cons. You look where the pins are on that map for the SEC. That's going to be pretty good weather in December and January. But when I was covering the team, I went to the Sun Bowl in 1984. One of the best bowl trips I ever had. And I used to always look at that Holiday Bowl out there and think, wouldn't it be great if Tennessee could play in the Holiday Bowl and the Pinstripe Bowl in New York would be.
That's the only bad weather bowl I threw in there was the Pinstripe Bowl. And that's simply Tennessee. I know people who went to that Garden State Bowl against Wisconsin in 81 still talk about what a great time it was going to New York City in the Christmas time.
Exactly. I mean, that's what I was thinking. There's a chance you could still get some pretty good, decent weather. And I look at the Pinstripe Bowl. Of course, you know me, Vegas. I mean, you can get like a 3-day trip now, and it's not that expensive. I think that'd be a wonderful trip.
And you never play Pac-12 teams. Partner up with the Las Vegas Bowl, play a Pac-12 team out there, even if it's one of your dud. I just look at the Orlando, Jacksonville, and Tampa. You got a good chance, if you're in the SEC East, you got a good chance of going to one of those just about every year when you're good. And they're all the same trip, basically. I would rather have one thrown into the mix that's, go to San Antonio, which is a fun place to go.
Compare that going to Shreveport. Nothing against Shreveport. I'm sure it's a wonderful town.
Vegas, Shreveport. All right, very good. Hey, let me give you some numbers. I thought this was interesting. Watching the college bowl games this year, one thing stood out to me. I kept thinking, man, this quarterback sucks. Because there were interceptions all over the place. Interceptions left and right. Through 38 bowl games, the winning team threw 30 interceptions. The losing team threw 50 interceptions. The winners in these games, 0.78 interceptions per game. The losers, 1.3 interceptions per game. Jarrett Garantano this past year, 0.25 interceptions. The guy only threw 3 interceptions in 12 games for his career. He's got 5 in 21 games. What I'm talking about here and what I noticed is Garantano is not Peyton Manning in terms of throwing 5 touchdowns. But he takes care of the football, which most of the quarterbacks in the country don't do. And the other thing that tells me is you should have had a better record this year. Now, I think Jeremy Pruitt's going to be fine long term. I liked a lot of what I saw. But I said before the season, I think like all first-year coaches, Kirby Smart included, probably your record's going to be a game or two worse than it should be. If you take care of the football like they did, and you lost some crummy teams, and you played some, bad teams. You played some bad teams and barely beat them. UTEP was ugly. Charlotte was ugly. You probably should have been a little bit better this year with a quarterback who took care of the football. Anyway, we'll see if he can continue to do that next year. All right, up next, we'll tell you who won our Bowl Pick'em contest, and it ain't Chuck, which will make him mad. But also, who's going to win tomorrow night, Clemson or Alabama, and is that matchup bad for college football? Are people so sick of it it's bad for the game? We'll discuss. Come on back on the Sports Source.